Okay, chapter 21, verse 8. Imra'ah b'nei Adonai. Let's say she is displeasing in the eyes of her master, asher lo ya'ada, that he does not want to designate her for himself, vehefta, and he shall have her redeemed. Am nachri lo yimshal He's not allowed to sell her to a foreign nation, in his betrayal of her. So what is going on? We have to look at Rashi. So this is a very, very difficult thing to understand, so we have to look at the Rashi. That he does not find favor, she does not find favor in his eyes to marry her, meaning to say, so he doesn't want to marry her. He's supposed to marry her. That's why she was sold to him, for him to marry her, but he doesn't want to. Asher lo ya'ada, he did not designate her to be his wife. Rashi says, Shahaya lo ya'ada v'achnisa lo isha. He should have designated her and married her to be his wife. That's what he should have done to her. The kesef kinyasahu kesef kidusheha. And so where would it be the betrothal money? When he paid the money to her father, that was the betrothal money which the father accepted on her behalf. And here the Torah is telling us that it's a mitzvah to do this yiyud. That meaning to say it's a mitzvah for him to marry her. That's what the Torah is telling us. So according to the tradition, there's two ways to read this verse. You could read it the way it is written and the way it is read. The way it's written is low with a lamed aleph with a vav, but the way we read it is lamed vav with a lamed vav to him. So therefore, we're reading it as though it was spelled asher lo ya'ada, that to him she shall be designated. So it's saying he should designate her for himself, that it's befitting that he take her as his wife. So that's the way. The way Targum and Onkelos understands it. Whereas alternatively, Rashi may have said, reading it as lo ya'ada, meaning to say with an aleph, for that she is displeasing. So therefore, he must have a good reason he doesn't want to marry her. Vehefta. So then, under those cases where if he doesn't want to marry her, he should give her room to be redeemed and to go free. He should assist in her redemption fee. Well, what's the room he gives her to be redeemed? That he deducts from her redemption fee. And this is proportionate to the number of years that she worked for him. As if she were hired by him. So rather than purchased. So what's going on? So the Talmud is telling us he has to give her room to be redeemed and to go free. And so the master is assisting her in a redemption free. How does he do this? Rashi tells us, Ketzad. How does this happen? Well, first let me read the footnote in this edition of Rashi. By right, the Hebrew maidservant should not be allowed to be redeemed without the master's consent, because in a sense she is his property. So if she's going to be redeemed, it will be expected that he should receive the full price that he paid. Torah says that that's not the case. She is allowed to leave as long as she compensates the owner as if she were originally acquired as a hired worker. So how is this so? Let's say he bought her for a mana, for 100 zuz, and she worked for him for 2 years. So then we say she was making 100 divided by 6 is how much she would be making. Omrim lo, we say to him, Yodea Yisa. We know that you were going to go free at the end of 6 years. That's what we say to him. You knew that she was supposed to go free at the end of 6 years. So therefore, b'shishit hamoneh, a sixth of the money. Therefore, nimtza shekanita avodat kol shana v'shana. You acquire for her each year for 1/6 of the money. Va'asta etzlacha shtei shanim. She worked for you for 2 years. Harei shlishis hamoneh. So 1/3. So therefore, you have to remove tol shtei shlishiyot hamoneh. Remove 2/3 of the money. V'teitzei me'etzlacha, and she'll go free from you. So that's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to do. So pay, if he doesn't want to marry her, you allow her to be redeemed, but she worked off part of her price. Now, he cannot sell her to a strange people. So neither the father or the master can sell her to another nation. And also, Rashi is saying, not only can he not sell her to another nation, he can't sell her to anybody else. She can only be sold once. That's what the verse is saying. But there is one other person who can marry her. With no yadena, but if to the son.
This is just, I've never seen this before. Even Ezra goes on a real tirade here.
Yeah, what does he say?
He says that a foreign people, quote unquote, is a collective noun which cannot possibly refer to any individual member of a group. Now listen to it, here it comes. Let the one full of hot air, this is a direct, let one of hot air, who says that Moses meant to write, quote, person, unquote, and wrote people instead, be hanged from the pillars of the Torah, contradict, exclamation mark.
Wow.
He says the same about the 7th day of Judges, David the 7th, son in Chronicles, when Samuel 1 makes it look as though he's the 8th, and many others. I've already explained all of them without resorting to lexical substitution. His books ought to be burnt, exclamation mark.
Wow.
Now, I don't know who's referring to.
No, I think he might, maybe, I don't know, maybe he's referring to.
But somebody was really taking a very strange line here.
Yeah.
And he got very, very upset.
Okay. So then the verse states, the Rashi says, "Bevigdova in Baaliv Godba." If he wants to betray her, Shalol Kaim Ba Mitzvah Siyud, by not fulfilling the mitzvah of Yiyud, meaning to say to marry her, V'kein Avia, also her father's betraying her, Me'acha Shabaga Ba Mechara Azeh, that he sold her to this person. He sold her as a maidservant. The betrayal was he sold her rather than caring for her. Verse 9, but he can also, if he gives her to his son, if he gives her over to his son, then she's a full wife. Rashi says, if the master, Adon, this teaches us that the master's son too can come in his place. To designate her as his wife, if the father consents. So this teaches us that the son can go in her place to designate her, to be designated her as his wife if the father agrees. And he doesn't need to betroth her. You are betrothed to me with the money that your father received from my father as your betrothal price. Or as your price.
Ramban says she gets a dowry, just like he was his own daughter.
Well, that's what Ramban says. But Rashi says, that it means she gets nasa. She gets food, clothing, and onam literally means time. That the husband has to give her time. He has to give her time. He has to designate time to be with her. Her husband is responsible to give his wife time.
Ramban says something out of the flock, the threshing floor, and the vat.
Wow.
We should quote from Devarim. That's what you do.
And if he doesn't do these three things to her, if he doesn't give her these responsibilities, if he takes another woman, he cannot diminish the sheirah. The sheirah is the food, the ksusa is the clothing, the ona is the time. Rashi says, if he takes another wife upon her, from the wife who was a maidservant, she elo kvar, from whom he had already designated. I mean to say, he can't give her any less. Sheira is mizonos, that's food. Kisusa is clothing, kamashmao. And onasa, this refers, Rashi says, tashmish. He has to provide for intimacy with her. And if he doesn't do these three things, she goes out, she's divorced, and she goes out for free, and there's no money. What does that mean? Rashi says, he doesn't do one of these three things. What are these three? He has to designate to him as his wife. Oh, if no, then what are the three? He designates her as his wife for him or to his son. Oh, yigrami pijo navetei, and then he deducts from her salary, and she goes out. No, this master did not designate her for himself or for his son. And she did not have the capability to redeem herself. Then she goes free.
Is there a time frame, like, how long?
Well, the most she could be enslaved for is 6 years. After 6 years, she automatically goes free.
Okay, but if he doesn't perform one of these three,
There's a normal time. The Talmud talks about it. What's the amount of time he's supposed to be with her, and also how much money he's supposed to do. There's a set amount. And she would take him to the court, and she'd say to the court, he's not doing his responsibilities. The Torah says, so the Torah provided a way for her to go free more than for the males. What is the additional way that she gets to go free? And if he has not married her, she goes free when she becomes an adolescent. If there were 6 years prior to the signs of adolescence, she goes free. 6 years for the male or the female. What does it mean here when it says she goes free without charge? If she had the signs prior to the 6 years, and she goes out through the signs. We might think she only goes free when she becomes an adult. Says the verse, in Kesef or Rabos Yitzias Bagrus. This tells us that she goes out through maturity. And if she didn't say both of them, I would say she goes free, Zo Bagrus. Therefore it says both of them. We don't give the disputant phrase to argue. So, okay. And now that we've established that, the verse goes on to talk about a new topic. Mishpatim has a lot of new topics. If somebody strikes a person so that he dies, he is put to death. What does it mean? Rashi says, why does it state like this? Because it states, when a man strikes any soul, he shall be put to death. I might think, excuse me, I skipped the Rashi. Rashi says there are many verses that are seemingly repetitive. Rashi says, if I can explain each verse, I'll be able to do it. So he's going to try hard. Why does it say somebody who strikes a man till he dies? Meaning to say, what's this verse adding on? Because it says, when a man will strike any human soul, he shall surely be put to death.
That's in Leviticus.
Yeah, so he's explaining.
So this is the first time, so that's why I said it.
Well, let him finish. Okay.
Sorry.
We'll see what he has to say. Okay, Shkoya. We'll see what he has to say, Rabbi Yosef. So the verse in Leviticus states, would you forget your glasses? There might be another one in the Havdalah drawer, Jeff.
They're not correct.
They're not the right ones? A double ignominy. You need glasses and you forget them.
Very low.
I have upstairs to 175.
It's okay.
He's good. So he says, Shomeani, I might think, I might say that if you strike the person without killing him, that's punishable by death. You only get put to death if you actually, meaning to say, Rabbi Yosef, the pasuk in Vayikra doesn't mention death. It says, Ishkiakeh kol nefesh adam mosimas. All the verse in Vayikra says is if you strike a person, we put him to death. So here we need to say, Makaish vames. If you strike him and he dies, you're put to death. From the verse in Leviticus, it wouldn't tell us that. That's why this verse tells us if you strike him and he dies, you're put to death. You're only liable for a strike that puts him to death. And if it says, what's the matter?
It's worse to lose your mind than your glasses.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You're getting each one. Oh, you have your glasses.
Yes, I forgot to put on my coat.
Okay.
This is killing by intent, not by accident.
Yeah, this is by intent. And if it says Makaish, v'lo nemar v'ish ki yakeh, if it has the verse here and it didn't have the verse there, I would have said that he's only liable unless he strikes an adult male. Therefore, he calls Aisha vesakatamina. And how do we know he's liable for death if he strikes a man or a child? That's why we have the verse in Leviticus, if you strike anybody. And afilu katan, afilu isha, even a minor, even a woman. Va'od, and furthermore, ilu nemar makaish, if it only said one who strikes a man, shomeani, I might have said afilu katan shehika v'haragechayv. I might have said even a minor, if it had only said the verse here, makaish v'meis monsimas, I might have said even a minor that struck a person and then killed will be liable. So therefore it says v'ishkiyakeh. Therefore we need the verse in Leviticus. It says only an adult who strikes, will katan shika, not a minor. A minor is not liable. Then we will never think a minor is liable, but this is such an egregious sin. We might think the minor would be liable, so we say no. And then it says, when it says in the verse of Leviticus, I might think even if you strike a nafel, by like a fetus or a baby who we don't think is going to live for 30 days. Therefore, Talmud Makaish, it says he strikes a man. You're only liable if you kill a viable human being, who's able to be a man. So that's why we need both of these verses to teach us the cases where the death penalty applies for murder and where it doesn't apply. So that's a lot of them. And now we answer Aviva's question. She says, was this intentional or accidental? And the verse comes straight out and says, V'asher lo tzada, v'elokim minol yado, v'samtilecha makom asher yanu shama. But that, the first verse was if you did it intentional. But let's say you did it accidentally, if he did not lie in ambush, and God brought it about to his hand, v'samtilecha makom asher yanu shama. Then I will make a place for you to flee there. Rashi says, somebody who does not lie in wait, lo aravo, we didn't ambush him. Lo niskavin, he had no intent. Sada means lashon arav, it's like ambushing. Okay, we'll skip the rest of that Rashi. Okay, v'alokim inol yado, and God brought it about. Zimein liyado, he prepared for his hand. Lashon lo tu'neh lecha ra'ah, no evil will befall you. Lo yuneh tzaddik oven, no iniquity will befall the righteous. Misaneh uli, He's picking a quarrel with me. He's preparing to find the pretext against me. Okay. Next is Valkimi Nel Yado. God brought it about. This is a very famous Rashi from Makos 10b. Why is it? Why do I call it a famous Rashi? A Rashi I remember is famous. Or a Rashi you've heard of before. We say famous. I really truthfully never like to use that expression because anytime that anybody else would use it, I always felt bad. I didn't know it. So it was a way of making the audience feel bad. So I try to avoid that phrase. So what's the expression? God arranged it. So basically, we're talking about if somebody killed somebody accidentally, it was arranged by God. So what does this mean? Why should such a thing happen? Why does God arrange for this accidental murder? Hushamar David. This is what David said. Kasher yomar mashal hakadmoni merishaim yitzei resha. As the ancient proverb says, from the wicked one goes forth wickedness. Mashal hakadmoni hi Torah. This is the Torah. Shemashal Kodesh Baruch Hu. This is the proverb of God. The Torah is the parable of God. Shu Kadmon Shalom. He is the forerunner of the world. Where does the Torah say from the wickedness will come forth wicked? God brought this about. What's the verse talking about? There are two people. One killed accidentally, one killed intentionally. But they're the one who killed, neither one of them had witnesses. So Reuben killed somebody on purpose with intent. Shimon killed accidentally. So what do? Zelo nerag, v'zelo goa. So this one escaped punishment because he was no witnesses. He was like O.J. Simpson. He got out of it. Yeah, I think he did it for sure. Okay, so he escaped. Vizelo gala. What?
Love don't fit.
Right? The glove don't fit, but plenty else fit.
Try it on.
Vizelo gala, and this other person killed accidentally, but nobody saw, so he didn't go into exile. The Kadosh Baruch Hu mezamnan of pundak achad. So God arranges everything. God arranged for them to go to a pundak, they went to the same inn. The guy who killed intentionally, he's sitting under the ladder. And the one who killed accidentally goes up the ladder. He falls down on the guy who killed intentionally. He kills him, and the witnesses testify. We make him go into exile. So the one who killed intentionally gets killed, and the one who killed accidentally goes into exile. And so we see from here, what goes around comes around. This is actually very powerful, but it's also very painful because I can't imagine, like the pain of an accidental death, what he feels, but it's very painful. The Talmud saying it's all part of God's plan.
It is, but contextually, when this is happening, 600,000 Jews all living in very close, tight-knit societies and villages. You can always find a reason.
Yeah.
I don't know if in this world, for instance, somebody gets blown out in the air in a plane or something.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can connect really the criminals with the victims. There's such a distance now. It's sort of like everything's so impersonal.
Yeah, it's very hard. Yeah, you're right.
If you accidentally cause harm to somebody, God forbid, then this says, well, it's your fault. You're an evil one.
Well, let's just go back, and Jeff is asking if it was accident, why are you evil? So the word accident here, there's three levels of killing in Jewish tradition, Jewish law, or at least three. One is ones, one is complete accident, unwitting. Then there is shogeg, which is accidental with negligence. And then there is intent with witnesses. So the person who kills accidental with negligence means you didn't intend to kill, but you were not acting in a responsible manner. So maybe that's like you're hitting with your. So the example the Talmud gives is the guy who's chopping the tree and his axe blade goes flying, and he should have set up a perimeter. He should have done OSHA. He should have made sure there was nobody nearby who could take an axe. And he was reckless with the way he set up his activity. So that's he's reckless. So he did something wrong. So he deserves to go. He doesn't deserve to get put to death or to die, Jeff, but Rashi's saying he deserves to go into exile. So if that's the way you acted, we're going to get you to go into exile.
I don't know if
That's not exactly, I mean.
That's what Rashi says here. We get
that's a
you.
nice way to read it.
No, Rashi says the one who killed accidentally is now going to kill again accidentally. He's going to be God's agent to kill somebody accidentally. So he's going to go into exile.
Well, it's more like the situation is that he commits the ultimate, takes a life. Yeah, if you don't send him to Ore Mikla, I mean, the guy is like permanently scarred because the family's gonna come after him.
Right, he's got to run to exile.
Even though he said, I did everything, I did set up the perimeter, I did everything.
Well, if he really did set up the perimeter, and then we're not going to send him into exile.
No, but you know, the family is not gonna.
No, but then the family who killed him would be responsible for death. Did I cut you off, Jeff?
No, but like in this case, there's no suggestion of his negligence in walking up the ladder.
Yeah, there is. Oh, in this case, it must be. Otherwise, he wouldn't go into exile. It has to be a case where he would go into exile. And maybe he set the ladder in a place where he could likely fall. If it was completely unwittingly, he would not go into exile. Yeah, no, it has to be that. There was negligence.
That's the wind.
Yeah.